what was most stunning to you when you look at some of these text messages and when you look at this interview of William Barnett, what he said in testimony?
Well, the timeline is particularly interesting. He indicates that there was very little, if any, activity on the Flynn case through August and the fall until after the election, and really after New Year's even. So it makes it even more clear that Flynn was the, quote, insurance policy, that they opened the file on him and kept it open using the pretense of national security letters, which are like subpoenas but don't have to go before a judge, to keep the file open so they could go after him if in fact he went to the White House with President Trump. And that's exactly what they did. The national security letters was a pretense. They had no derogatory information on him whatsoever. It was all a scam that they carefully created and orchestrated to set him up and frame him for statements that he didn't even make.
And we've got these texts among the FBI officials that really say so much. For example, in October 2016, as the FBI was investigating ties between Russia and the Trump campaign, which of course never materialized, two unnamed agents write this: "Ha ha, so now blank is trying to work a trip to South Africa, the Crossfire Roadshow. I'm interested to see how this all plays out. I'm telling you, man, if this thing ever gets a FOIA, that is a Freedom of Information Act, there are going to be some tough questions asked, and a great deal of those will be related to Brian having a scope way outside the boundaries of logic." Sidney, what does this text exchange tell us?
Well, that tells us that they knew how bad it was. They knew if anyone got hold of these text messages, it was going to be a big problem. And they evidence a lot more too. In fact, when they're closely read, you can see Peter Strzok admitting that he's playing games with the Sentinel system that the FBI uses to serialize the opening of files and FBI 302. There were all kinds of games going on inside the FBI that are reflected in those text messages. And Mr. Barnett was just stunned by all of it. I mean, he's very clear that there was no derogatory information on General Flynn whatsoever. There never should have been a case brought against him. And the agents were just off the rails, particularly Jeannie Rhee on the special counsel operation was so egregious in her effort to target Flynn that Mr. Barnett refused to even work with her.
So I want to, before I get to this next text, let's just walk through basically what was happening. The FBI was investigating Trump and collusion with Russia. They couldn't find any evidence of any collusion, but they kept driving the narrative. They were worried because then candidate Trump, he had already been elected. It was before his inauguration. He was going to choose General Flynn as his national security advisor. Then he chose General Flynn as the incoming NSA. They were worried because as soon as a new NSA comes in, what happens? He gets his hands dirty, gets into everything they're doing, and then he's going to immediately figure out that they've been investigating both him and President Trump. Is that right?
Yes, and he would have seen all the FISA abuses. He would have caught on to all their illegal surveillance. He was going to review the intel community and how it had abused all kinds of its authority, not just FISA, but the NSA database, and I think it was mined for private gain even by private contractors that Comey gave access to it unsupervised. There was a heck of a lot going on that he would have stopped immediately, uncovered, and cleaned up and out.
Reporting a lot is what happened before July of 2016. That was when the FBI claims that they started investigating Trump, but we know that there was all this activity in March, April, May of 2016 where these quote-unquote diplomats or washed-up spies were running into Trump campaign people and dropping things so that they were being paid. Apparently, Stefan Halper, I have speculated, was being paid well, we know that he was being paid by the Office of Net Assessments, but he got paid huge money. I've speculated that he was actually being paid to run into Trump campaign people and not to write reports on China and Russia. Here's another text for you. On January 5th, 2017, during the transition, two unnamed agents write this: "So, Razor is going to stay open? Question mark 3 times. Yep. Crimes report being drafted. What's the word on how President Obama's briefing went? I don't know, but people here are scrambling for information to support certain things, and it is a madhouse. Jesus, Trump was right. Still not put together. Why do we do this to ourselves? What is wrong with these people? The last text refers to a tweet from then President-elect Trump 2 days prior, where he wrote, "The intelligence briefing on so-called Russian hacking was delayed until Friday. Perhaps more time is needed to build a case." Very strange. So, Sidney, here you have, during the transition period, January 2017, they still say Trump is right. Still not put together. No evidence of any collusion.
Oh yeah, they knew there was no collusion. They had ordered the Flynn case closed first by November 8th, Election Day, ordered it closed again by January 4th, and just used excuses of his calls with Ambassador Kislyak to reopen it. That's when they started scrambling for information to try to build a Logan Act case, which they all knew was bogus. There's never been a successful Logan Act case. It's probably unconstitutional, not to mention how much other people have violated it. Flynn was doing his job. There was no Logan Act violation at all, and they knew that too. It was one absurd effort after the other. Plus, Jeannie Rhee, remember, the one who was so adamant trying to find something against him, was the one who represented Clinton and the Clinton Foundation. And of course, General Flynn had said lock her up with the crowd at the convention or one of the rallies, and that's where they got so enraged, and particularly about General Flynn.
Yeah, so the filing revealed that on January 10th, 2017, FBI agents were obtaining liability insurance, Sidney. They wrote this: "We all went and purchased professional liability insurance. Holy crap, all the analysts too? Yep. Can I ask who are the most likely litigators as far as potentially suing y'all? Ha ha, who knows?" I think his concern was that when we got it, was that there was a big leak at DOJ, and the New York Times, among others, was going to do a piece. The thought was, if the piece comes out and January 20th comes around, the new AG might have some questions, then yada yada, we all get screwed. I mean,
yeah, that was specifically in response to the article written by David Ignatius, where somebody had leaked the calls that Flynn made with Ambassador Kislyak pursuant to his duties as incoming national security advisor. So that article came out, and that's what started. They used that. I mean, that was a deliberate leak, obviously, to start a whole new prosecution of General Flynn that was also baseless.
Lindsey Graham came on the show yesterday with me, and he said that any investigation around General Flynn was total garbage and made up. Sidney, where do you stand right now with your client, General Flynn? The president's skeptics and critics are trying hard, and General Flynn's critics are trying hard to keep this going.
Well, they have absolutely nothing. The government's filed a massive motion to dismiss back on May 7th that included 80 pages of exculpatory information that's been hidden from us despite Judge Sullivan's court order for up to 4 years now. And we've got a hearing tomorrow on the motion to dismiss at 11 a.m. The public can listen to it. I'll tweet out at Sidney Powell 1 the information so that everyone can listen. Judge Sullivan must grant the motion to dismiss with prejudice. Every case in the country requires the dismissal of a government's motion to dismiss, every single precedent. And there's more than ample reason to dismiss it here because the government is clear that no case should have ever been brought. And there's more evidence than I've ever seen to justify and absolutely mandate dismissing it.
And by the way, Sidney, real quick, we only have 15 seconds here. You're not getting paid for this. You're doing this because you believe this is the right thing to do. Is that right?
No, we're being paid from the defense fund, not our regular rates, but we are being paid something.
So you're being paid from the defense fund. All right, Sidney,
yes.
Great to see you this morning. Thank you so much. We'll be watching tomorrow's hearing.